crazy experience with Venice. I went there many years ago, and I've been in somewhere else in Italy, and I said I really want to see Venice. It's just a connection, you know, that you feel. And I took on a train, and I've been traveling for I think 4 hours or something, and everybody on the train was sleeping, and I was all the time looking if I'm gonna miss. Sorry, it's his story. Yes, and it was really a relief when I went there. It's interesting because the last stop is called Freedom. It's Liberty Stop, the Liberty Station in Venice, and also the entire place it's an island, and for me is somehow deprived from the stupidity of the continent. So I think this is why Venice. And it's also because of the V, and it's also because of the story, and for many other things. It's interesting because everything in the film is somehow connected. If you think about it, you see that the story goes into circles and it closes in big and small circles. So Venice would be one of the medium-sized circles in the film. Yeah.
How did you tell the story, and why did you feel the need to put archive film in it?
I was thinking a lot on how to tell the foreign audience where we are in time. And I didn't want to have a voiceover, and if you look at the film is very silent in general. And I wanted to tell this with less words, and it was interesting to see the audiences throughout the world when traveling with Victoria, because the film went to more than 70 festivals, and I've been traveling with it for I went to 30 different countries, and it's interesting that always someone in the archive rings a bell to the audience, and they know where they are in time. So for me, it was important to understand this on one side, and on the other side, Custodo Živko, because he's an important part of the story for the character, for Victoria, and for the film, somehow for the entire plot. And okay, it's clear that in this part of the world we had these communist dictators, but it was important to understand which type of a guy he is, you know, just to know what this figure represents somehow. This is why using the archive. How I built the story, you know, I wrote 7 different versions of the script throughout the years because it took me a long time to make the film. First it was with another producer, then when I was fighting for the rights for this film, so it was like on its Odyssey journey for me. Like it took me 9 years to make the film, from the moment I wrote it to the moment of the premiere in Sundance. And so I noticed that throughout time, the story didn't change so much. There were things changing, like for instance, the framework of the story was different. Initially, when scripting the story first, I didn't have an archive material. But then, when getting closer to the film and trying to create a realistic environment, although there are unrealistic things happening, magical, surreal, call them whatever you feel comfortable with, but it was important to keep the main in the story, and it's the story between the mother and the daughter. So everything else is just helping me keep the story together and have this background, which is the historical past also.
Was he really choosing children like that? Because I remember that Ceausescu was choosing just one child every year for the New Year's Eve. It was a new one every time, and there were some children just to offer him flowers and so on.
Yeah. With that, it was very similar to you. I mean, we have a very similar past with Romania.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yes, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know. Yeah, it depends on the point of view.
I remarked the aerial. You were already using the dishes where you were using your Bulgarian.
No, I know that you were also seeing Le Canal de Ța. So, and many other things. Studio Kicks, remember? Yeah. Just to go back to your question, he would choose somebody in a very crazy way. So before starting to work on my own films, I've been working as an assistant director for 12 years. I've been working as the first, second assistant director and a casting director, which I think helped me a lot to understand the entire process of making a film, so I don't have the problem of a first-time director really, because I don't feel like a first-time director. And one of the films that I was working with, it was a documentary series made out of 4 or 6 films, I had to look at hundreds of archive material for them. And I think I fall in love with the time and with the footage. The footage is genius.
Yes, it is.
It's absolutely outstanding, and it can tell a different story without another plot. But it was interesting to see in this footage, from one side, the madness of this era, because it's. I think the film looks a lot like the archive footage, if you think about it, because it looks like it has a structure and it has a story, but there is madness inside that is beyond the normal way of thinking. So, for instance, he would pick, I'm going back to the archive material, so Todor Živkov would pick the best worker in the country. Somebody that done for 1 year something that the others did for 5 years. And it was very shameful, I think, for everyone that he was choosing. And usually the people that he chose ended up in a bad way. Yes.
So
and
it
you
was
can
bad
find,
luck, by the way.
Sorry?
It was bad luck, I suppose.
It's like a bad luck, yes. Or like the baby of the new decade, when Bulgaria was having 1,300 years of from the creation of the country, then he would choose a kid like this. And I thought that for me it was important that Viktoria is somehow generalizing all these crazy events. And you have on one side the kid which is born on the anniversary, but on the other side also a kid that represents the future and everything. So I made a little mixture out of her. I mean, it was interesting when people saw the film in Bulgaria that many of them said, "Oh yeah, I remember this girl." This girl never existed. You know, so it's insane. And other would ask me, "Do you have a belly button?" By the way, so it's. Somehow you can fool them.
Really?
Yes. Also, my boyfriend, who saw the film first, I didn't know him, but the film met me with him, thought that I never had a belly button when we met. He's Bulgarian. I just wanted to make sure. So, Viktoria and the things that are represented, which include Todor Živkov, are a generalized image of everything I saw. Like 45 years of archive material.
How did the Romanian-Bulgarian co-production happen? I think it's a question for both.
Just friendship. Over the river. We met, actually, Anka and I met for the first time here in Bucharest, and it was interesting because I was participating with Victoria in a workshop, which was a fire workshop, maybe you don't remember. So they invited her to make a case study on the death of Mr. Lazarescu, but I didn't know that she's in the audience. And I knew the film because I liked it a lot. And the speaker was talking about the film, and I was saying, and they did this, and they did this, and they did so. And at one point it was interesting because I was saying again one thing, and suddenly there was the voice saying, no, not exactly. So it was a little bit different. I was like, hey, come on. And it was actually her, and this is how we met. And then we met in Sarajevo again, and when Christy was a jury there, and I was participating in the short film in another competition. So throughout the years we became close, and for me it's important because the films that I'm doing or aiming at are very complicated and probably take a little bit more time than usual. Then it's important to have strong partners as a backup. You know, it's like having a good doctor. So it's good you don't need them, if everything is going well, but when you need it, to be there, so like this. What's your version?
Because you're a Gemini.
And because my ascendant is a Scorpio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're very. Actually, we closely approach, and actually was sorry because what we are interested actually in Mamara and the way Christy set up the company was somehow. And is the same thing I'm interested is we just had about 10 minutes ago the discussion, is I'm interested when you have an author or somebody who wants to make a film to tell a story. I'm not interested in a story, in an interesting story. I'm about to be interested to know your version of the story, you know, to get through somebody. I mean, to tell me something that she's feeling, she's getting, and I like very much this very personal story, which from my point of view was because I'm a mother, for example, I really wanted to know if, for example, this story which bothers her very much, how much will help her, or if it's a moment to tell it now and so on. And it was, she told me she's staying with this issue for ages, and she really wanted to do this and nothing else. This is it. So she really wanted to tell the story in this way. And I must say, I saw first draft of a film, which was a bit different. When I saw the second one, it just gave me the feeling I just was very happy, but to be fair, it was completely different, with the finished film. It was nice, the story, but when I saw the film, I was even more.
Yeah, I take longer time in post-production. I mean, we edit the film and then I go away. And I just leave it for 2-3 months, and then I go back and see it, and it's different. So it took me, and also the CGI, which is like 85 shots of the film, it took like 4 months to make. So that gave me also space to still change, and so yeah. But it was a lot of work. Yeah. Meantime, I produced a film, a feature film. I did 2 short films and so on. But still, it's something that bothers me, and it will stay.
How did it work in Bulgaria?
Oh my God, it's such a nightmare. Having in mind the fact that I'm a female director and also a director and producer and also a debut film director and producer, it was a fight to convince the film center to trust me, because they thought, okay, if you're a first-time director, then you cannot be the producer. But at one point, they didn't have other choice. I mean, the choice was to kill the film or just to give it to me, because otherwise it was not going to work. And it's interesting when you have, because I had a big crew behind, like 150 people, and also we separated the shooting in 3 different periods of time. So it was like, because I wanted to have 4 seasons in the film. It doesn't matter if you see it, but I think that you feel the time passing somehow. So it was important to have this feeling. And it's interesting because I fired so many people from the first shooting, being the assistant director, for instance, on a project, or an executive producer, always gives you a different point of view. I mean, you're somehow with the crowd. But when you're the producer or the director, then you can see somebody who's not doing their job instantly.
So, which is not there.
Yes, they are not there, and you just they are heavy for you. And then, so if I shot the first part of the film with 100 people on set, then I shot the second part of the film with 30 people on set. I just took them out, and it felt much better, and it was much lighter, and for me it was a relief. But otherwise, first that you, of course, you bump into people who are doubting you from the first second without knowing you. Without knowing you. And for me it was important. I think the first shooting day was a milestone somehow, because in the pre-production you still have the people, but they are not sure whether you're gonna make it.
Yes, it will happen.
And so they look at you with a little bit of doubt, or a lot of doubt. And it was very crazy on the first shooting day, because contrary to normal people, I started with a very complicated psychological scene from the first day, 6 a.m. And it was funny because we were shooting in a small flat, a real location, no set, and you could almost not breathe. It was so tense with everybody, but everyone was there, on the windows, in the doors, behind the corners, everyone was there looking at me and expecting me to fail. Probably some of them didn't, but a lot did, and they were sitting and looking. And you feel this pressure, but for me, when I go on a set, for me, the most important thing is what's happening there, and I like it a lot, and it's like a game. So I start and so on. And the moment we shot the first take, you just feel like, and they went away. So it was, for me, that was important, because they said, okay, we're gonna support this, and let's see how it works. But otherwise, I think what helped me the most was my experience from the productions that I did before. Because they were like, if anything can go wrong, it went wrong. I mean, we were supposed to start shooting with the kids. Then suddenly, my production manager said, "Yeah, but they said no to the approval for the kids. So you cannot shoot them now. We can shoot them in 4 weeks. So you need to change the schedule overnight, and you need to restructure." So there were locations going down, going up again. Everything was complicated, but I think that when you know what you want to tell, and you have your close collaborators with you, my DOP and my editor, who passed away, my editor later.
You have 3 people who died.
Yeah. So it was working, you know. So you just stand there and fight.
I was wondering about the audience also, the Bulgarian audience.
Yeah.
The public, what did they say? When you show it in cinema halls, did you
Yeah.
show?
Well, most of them look like after the film is over, like somebody hit them with a wet rag. So they have this common face. And I would say that they're very separated. So half of them would hate the film.
It's a question of generation or not?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a question of
Yes.
a type of person you are and your mentality, your baggage, like intellectual and everything, and also, but mostly, your emotional intelligence. Because this is a film that works with the core, which is the relationship to your mother. We all have mothers, and they all gave birth to us, and we are what we are because of them or without them, you know. It's something that really creates you as a person. And there was a very funny man on one of the screenings when I went to do a Q&A. He said, "I'm very angry, but I don't know why." So you had this on one point, and there are people who are moved and they want to talk to you, to meet you, to discuss more, to see the film more. But there were lots of people who saw the film twice, which is not, I mean, from obviously not the guys who hated it, but the others.
Yes.
So the Bulgarian audience is an audience you never please. Bulgarian film have very low audience numbers, very low. I mean, here, now talking to Anka and also following what happens with Romanian films lately, in the past 2 years, you are much better again because the audience went back to cinemas. With us, the only way to have the audience really going to the cinema is to have a cheap comedy with star actors, and I don't like this, and I don't shoot star actors. So
Box
maybe.
office.
Huh?
So the box office.
So the box office is a box. It's an office in a box. No, but it's different. Yeah.